This is the story about a point in Pittsburgh where it's always freezing. I'm Boaz, and these are Pittsburgh Stories. I was walking through the Bedford Dwellings neighborhood on a hot September day when I came around the corner and saw a giant gray building near the corner of Heron and Bigelow. And then I saw the sign, Mastro Ice. So what happens inside an ice factory? I called to find out, and a few days later I was getting a tour from Joe Mastro. Him and his brother Mike owned the place.
Going to head into the packaging.
This is the room where they make bagged ice. So are you packing ice in the middle of the night then?
We used to run 3 shifts. Then we were down to 2 shifts. And with the 2 automated packaging lines we have, we can do everything in 8 hours. So we hold 250 pallets of packaged ice, and each pallet weighs 2,200 pounds.
Next, Joe showed me the machines that make 300-pound blocks of ice.
These blocks here are just about frozen. The ice is right here. You can see how clear it actually is. You can't freeze ice too fast. Waiting 4 days for a block of ice or 3.5 days is a long time to us, but the end result is well worth it because it's very clear.
As a kid, did you have any sense what you'd do when you grew up?
Yes, I always knew I wanted to be an HVAC guy. My dad would always say when he was on jobs, you can't get a good air conditioning guy when he needed someone to, when he was working on a home. And I always thought I would do refrigeration. But the ice machines really seem to be a fascinating machine to work on. So eventually over the years we came into an old machine that someone was getting rid of and we fixed it up, put it in my mom's basement. When people's ice machine would break, we'd give them a bag of ice or a couple of bags of ice. Then we ended up selling bags of ice. And back in the mid-'80s we got out of the refrigeration business and stayed in the ice business.
Here's where they keep the dry ice.
Just solid CO2, and it melts back to its gaseous state.
But how they got to this building in Bedford Dwellings is another story.
In 1988, our ice plant was in Oakmont, and we had a fire in December, and we lost everything. And we were really scrambling to find a new location. I'd always drive by this place and it was a meatpacking plant. I think 1926 Arsenal Meatpacking started here, and noticed a for sale sign on it. And that's how we end up here in 1989. I'm sure a lot of people just gave up and moved on to something else, but we stayed with it, and now here we are.
And this is Joe's favorite room.
We keep this room at 17 degrees. So in this room, we sculpt the ice.
So that's a piece of ice right there that you're holding. Wow.
This is ice, correct. Chainsaw, die grinders, chisels. We use them all. Some folks don't use chisels anymore, but we do.
Also, trying to film in and out of refrigerated rooms can get a little tricky.
This would be some really early ice sculpture, maybe a swan we did for a street fair somewhere. A motorcycle ice sculpture, we started making those in 1992. That's 4 blocks of ice. It's made life size.
How do you do that? That just seems so complicated.
With much practice.
Dan Schaefer was a Marine, a chef, and a restaurant supply salesman, but he's been sculpting ice for Mastro since 1996.
Dan won't let something go out of here if it's not perfect. I would say there's been many times when he had a piece almost completed and he'd push it aside and start over and said, this isn't what I had in mind.
And with a few decades of experience, Joe and Dan can sculpt pretty much anything.
We've carved the actual contraption that's inside an MRI machine.
This is a rather detailed ice bar. Both sides have jumping fish.
We've sculpted human anatomy, like the knee sculpture for a doctor's office.
In recent years, they've also started using a CNC machine to do some of the smaller details.
There used to be at one time probably 12 or 15 family-owned ice plants. And that's just us and one large national company.
So you're the only local guys left?
The only, yes.
And one more thing. Joe also played an important role in one of my favorite movies, Groundhog Day.
They had us make 4 of everything, or several sculptures, and that's when Bill looks like he's sculpting it in the movie, when he's talking to Andy McDowell and Chris Elliott.
Did you know he could ice sculpt?
No.
And that's the story I found in Bedford Dwellings. Next up, Beach View. Have you ever tried working with other materials?
I have not. Dan does. I only just ice.
I've done a few wood pieces. They're fair. I'm better at ice.
If you've watched this far, you might as well click on that little drawing of me to subscribe to this channel. Or watch a video about another Pittsburgh neighborhood right now.